Everybody, and welcome to the Most Important Conversations meditations. These meditations are held Monday through Friday each week, and the main theme of our meditations is liberation. The content for the talks that precede each meditation each morning come from our main program, Whole Life Architecture, and our intention with these meditations is to provide you with a community that you can meditate with and an access point to your own liberation, which is the path of transformation. We've been talking over the last couple of weeks about suffering and how suffering is an experience that is very common to the human experience, but is directly as a result of our own created circumstances. And in particular, we've been looking at attachment and how we get attached to the stories of how life is supposed to be, how life is supposed to go, and how this gets in the way of our ability to actively engage in life, because we become trapped in how life is supposed to go in the narratives and in the stories that we get attached to, as opposed to being able to be with what is at any point in time. And one of the areas that I'd like to address this week, and in particular today, as we continue to kind of look into all of the different ways where we as human beings are fundamentally at our essence creators. And so we're not only just responsible for creating the so-called good things, the wins or the successes. We all want to take credit for the things that are working in our life. But if we want to do that, we also have to take the credit, so to speak, for the areas of our life that are not working for us, that are not aligned with us. And when we say something doesn't work or doesn't have workability, what we're really saying is that something doesn't have integrity. It doesn't align with who we authentically are. And so we're living a life that's out of integrity. And one of the things that we become really attached to in our life are our habits, are these habits or things, are behaviors that we do over and over again. They may have began consciously, but then they become unconscious, and yet we're still living inside of them. They're still having an impact on our life. Habits are our mind's process, and again, like everything in the human experience, it's a creative process. So habits are our mind's process of creating stability. So our mind is always seeking predictability. It's always seeking stability. And as a result of that, our mind is really a habit-making, addiction-making machine. It will take anything in our life and it will transform it or turn it into a habit if we do it often enough. And the reason our mind does this is because we want to be able to predict. So habits are great tools for predictability. We know how we're going to react in any situation that adheres to a certain criteria. Whatever that criteria might be. It might be the way you always interact with friends or family members, and the criteria is simply that you're interacting with these friends or family members, and then the habituated behavior shows up. It might be the way you habitually react in a certain environment, maybe the work environment or the family environment, or even out in public. You will have habituated ways of interacting in certain environments. You will have habituated ways of interacting when certain events occur. Maybe you have a certain reaction around political events or events in your city. Events in your family dynamics or whatever. So it could be people, it could be circumstantial, it could be events. But the point is that our brain is continually trying to create the conditions for stability. And in seeking to create the conditions for stability, we end up creating a life that is largely habituated, and we then become attached to these habits. And yet our soul, our desires emerge, and they want something other than habit. They want something that is life-giving. They want something that is, we're seeking thriving. We're seeking aliveness. And so we're in this conundrum that we often find ourselves in, where on the one hand, the brain is seeking stability, predictability. We become heavily conditioned around that stability and predictability. Our minds create the conditions so that we end up doing the same thing. You know, scientists say that 90% of what you did yesterday, you're going to likely do today and likely do tomorrow. So these are your habits. And while these habits may have began as something that were useful to you, eventually they become old, they become stale, and they actually become restrictive and they start to hold us back. So the path of liberation is the path that allows us to move from habituated, conditioned, unconscious reactions to unhabituated, conscious responses. In other words, we take each moment as it is without projecting the past into that moment or projecting our hopes and fears of the future into that moment. We take each moment and we have the ability to respond to that moment. So in this case, you can see that because the brain is a creative mechanism, it's a creative organ, and to be a creator is the essence of what it means to be human, that we even create the conditions for our own suffering. We create those conditions by forming habits, and this is done largely unconscious, but then once the habits are formed, we can't get out of them because we barely even notice them anymore. We're just going about life, doing the things that we're doing every single day, and feeling sort of this drift from our thriving, this drift from our aliveness, this drift from excitement. And what often will happen is human beings will continue along like this to the point where they blow up. They can't take it anymore, so they blow up their life. They end their relationships, they quit their jobs, maybe they escape through drugs and alcohol and other escape tools. But this is sort of, if you stand back and you observe human behavior at a distance, this is the trajectory that pretty much every single human being on planet Earth oscillates from. They oscillate from really loving and embracing habituated stability, and then the mundane reality of that sets in, and we're just pining after any kind of aliveness, any kind of thriving, any kind of newness, freshness that we can get our hands on. And if we don't know how to do it or how to approach it elegantly, sometimes we just blow our life up. And so this is very common for human beings. This is a very common situation that we all find ourselves in. So the question then is how to approach life from a place of thriving and aliveness without having to blow our life up, how to liberate ourselves from our conditioning and to be in that state where we're able to remain in it continuously and consistently without drifting back into habit, without drifting back into the conditioning of our mind. And so one of the ways that in whole life architecture we talk about being able to do this on the path of liberation is first to be able to see and to observe what are the areas of your life where you're dissatisfied, and just be really honest with yourself. You can usually find these places in your life because usually you're complaining about them. You're usually restless around thinking about these areas of your life. Maybe it's people, maybe it's the circumstances in your life, like your job. Maybe, again, it's people in your life. Maybe it's just your own lack of satisfaction with what you're up to in your life, not having a sense of a calling or purpose that you're being able to connect into and feeling like you're living in Groundhog Day. For many people right now, as the AI revolution emerges, many people are going to feel a sense of insecurity at the prospect of potentially losing their job. And so there might be anxiety and stress and complaint showing up around that. But wherever in your life you're experiencing some level of dissatisfaction, and that could be many areas, but let's just pick one for this morning. For that area, I want you to get really curious. What are you dissatisfied about this area? And in your fantasy, in your imagination, what might your life look like in that area if you had total creative power, total creative control to create it into anything you would want it to be? What would that be? What would that look like? Maybe you're unclear what that would look like. Maybe all you're present to is a dissatisfaction with what it is without knowing what you would replace it with. And even that is a fine answer for the moment. At the very least, you know you're experiencing dissatisfaction. And even just acknowledging that opens up the creative centers and begins to liberate yourself from the attachment. You know, we get attached to things, even things that don't serve us. Even things we're complaining about, it's like the devil we know. We become attached to these things. And so consider that one area in your life right now where you are in complaint. Maybe you're trying to escape from it. Maybe it's a person, a circumstance. And just kind of be with that reality for a minute. Be with the fact that you are dissatisfied in this area. Acknowledge it, admit it, allow it to be felt fully. We call this in our whole life architecture work emotional sobriety. Emotional sobriety is the ability to be with the discomforting feelings when we're out of integrity, when we're out of alignment, when we don't have workability in some area of our life. It begins with being able to be with it, not running from it, not pretending it's okay, not making excuses for it, not looking for ways to escape from the discomfort of it, but being with the discomfort, knowing that it's going to take creative effort to create a new possibility in that area and to get around it. But it begins with being able to be with it. If we can't be with our area, with the areas of our life where we're displeased, where we're unsatisfied, then we can never become the creators in that area to transform it. Acknowledging the displeasure with it, the dissatisfaction with it, is the first honest step in liberating yourself. Because as long as you're making it okay, as long as you're tolerating it, you know, in our whole life architecture program, the people who are participating in it are becoming creators of a life by design that they will design for themselves versus merely tolerating a life by default. And that begins with no longer tolerating that which we are dissatisfied with. So it's important to be able to feel it fully. And just be with that. If you have that one area in your mind right now, whatever it is, a relationship, your career, your lack of career, some other area of your life, perhaps your health, your wellness. And just acknowledge to yourself you are dissatisfied with this area and really allow that, you know, let that in, feel it fully. What you're doing in this moment is you are no longer letting your brain try to create a false sense of stability in that area by pretending it's okay. You know, when you talk to people and you meet them just sort of, you know, you run into them or something and you ask them how it's going and it's always fine, right? Oh, it's fine, it's great, yeah, life. How often are we really honest with what's really going on in our life? Especially to ourselves. And not just from a place of complaint. Complaint is a way that we sort of let out the energy that's pent up around the dissatisfaction. So what we want to do is we want to stop living a life of complaint, but instead use complaint as the path that reveals to us where we are experiencing dissatisfaction, and then we own it. Liberation begins with owning what is. In the Buddhist tradition, they call it the isness of life. What is the isness of life for you right now? And once you have that in your mind, and once you've acknowledged that to yourself, it sounds crazy, but there's nothing immediately to do with it. For the rest of this week, as we move into Thanksgiving week, there's going to be many people who are going to be confronted with friends and family members and dissatisfaction in their life, and they're going to want to blame others, point fingers, resist acknowledging the dissatisfaction that they're experiencing in their life. There's going to be many family dinners this week that are going to end up in massive arguments, and all an argument is are the egos, the identities of the people around the table not willing to acknowledge their own dissatisfaction and putting the blame on a scapegoat outside of them. It's the person across the table. It's the political leaders. It's the economy. It's my job. It's this annoying pain I have in my back. It's always something other than acknowledging that we own this. And owning it doesn't mean that we have to tolerate it. Living a life of liberation is a life where we're not tolerating these things, but in order to transform these things, to liberate the areas that we are in complaint, we have to acknowledge it and be with it. Sometimes the awareness alone, the honest, naked, blunt awareness of your dissatisfaction, without rushing to make it better right away, is one of the most powerful first steps you can make. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to talk about where to go from here. But this week, what I'd like to do is to drill into the various areas of dissatisfaction that we have individually. We just go on our own introspective journey and see if we can lighten the load before we enter this holiday season. See if we can use this opportunity over the next several weeks to get really bluntly honest with the things that we are in complaint about, the things that we are dissatisfied, because that is the beginning of the liberation path. If 2026 is going to truly be a transformative new year for you, it begins with acknowledging where things are out of alignment in your life, where your brain has created habit and conditioning to assuage the discomfort of the dissatisfaction in that area. We create habit, it becomes the devil we know, we don't think about it anymore, and every once in a while we entertain ourselves in this complaint, or we pester other people with our complaints. These become stories that we become trapped inside of. We become trapped in what we're right about. We become right about the fact that this part of my life is annoying, but it's just the way it is. It'll never change. This person, I'm not happy with them, but oh well. What can you do? Life's a bitch and then you die. We have these sort of almost like volcanoes off-gassing of our emotions. Our complaints are like mini volcanoes where we're just off-gassing our frustration so that we can go into another period of toleration before the next off-gas, and then we tolerate more and the next one, and before we know it, 10, 15, 20 years has gone by. And instead of creating a life by design that we are truly thriving and experiencing aliveness in, we've just jumped from one tolerating complaint sequence to another. So this week, I want to talk about what are the areas in your life where you are experiencing complaint, where you're experiencing dissatisfaction. And we're going to really sit with this over the coming weeks. We're going to explore it from different angles through the whole life architecture and the liberation work, so that as you approach 2026, these areas can be transformed for you in your life. That's what's possible. So let's move into our meditation today. Nothing to be done with that except being aware of your dissatisfaction, those areas of your life where you're in complaint, and just observe that for a moment. Don't push it away. Don't pretend it's not there. Don't obfuscate. Just be with it. And we will address it as we move things along. But for right now, be with it and be honest about it. We're going to move into our meditation now. I'm going to invite Mignon now this morning to guide us through our neurosculpting meditation, and we will continue to deepen and explore what to do with dissatisfaction and complaint so that we don't have to blow up our life, so that we can actually address it elegantly. And part of being able to do that is to develop the neuroplasticity that is required for us to be able to thrive in the discomfort while we are transforming it. So I would like Mignon to join us for the meditation this morning.
Thank you so much, Chad. And good morning, everyone. Today's neural sculpting meditation explores personal space and observing our emotions from within and into the outer space. And along the journey, I'll be offering cues, toggles, and creative imagery. So you might hear me spell out words or dial up or down or invite playful or even bizarre imaginings, all intentionally designed using the 5-step neural sculpting meditation process. And it's a process that helps to calm the nervous system. It primes the brain for creating supportive ideas and gives you agency in how you move through life. I've found that practicing the same meditation can be supportive in helping to reinforce desired outcomes and create lasting shifts over time. And I hope it serves you in a good way. So let's begin. Together, we'll go on a little meditation journey to noticing a space that belongs to us but is not of us, a space just outside of our own bodies. And we will start first by saying hello to your body in this moment, wiggling out any tension, rolling out wrists or ankles, or giving the body a gentle stretch wherever that might feel good. And you might like to find a comfortable seat, or perhaps you prefer to lie down. Adjusting your environment to support you however you'd like it to. And you are welcome to gently close your eyes. Your thoughts can be focused or scattered, but your body is right here in one place, waiting to respond to your mind. So, what if you could notice at this time which parts of the body would like a little permission to let go and relax a little more, so that you sink your weight into the cushion or mattress or ground just a little further. And as an observer, what is your breath doing? You might start to become aware of the first moment you notice your inhale. Is that at your nose? Is that in your belly or your lungs? And that is just one point along the journey of your inhale. So, could you expand that awareness? Could you follow your inhale just a bit further, noticing how it travels, how it moves down through the body? And gently follow the path of your exhale, allowing your body to flow and follow the journey of the exhale as your breath breathes into the room, the way it disperses into the air around you. So many parts of the breath we can notice if we just took the time. You might even elongate your exhale and your inhale so you could notice a bit more. Maybe you notice the temperature of your breath, the texture. Where is it smooth? And even though you're aware of it now, your breath is consistently supporting you in all moments. And as it gets deeper, longer, slower, your body is invited to get heavier and more comfortable, naturally resting. Breath is breathing itself, and perhaps your mind is ready to think of other things, so we can invite it to be creative. How interesting would it be for your creative mind to imagine the smell of rain, a light spring rain shower, and then imagine the taste of the smell of rain? How would you describe that flavor? Or maybe it's more intriguing to imagine riding a bicycle built for three, where everyone is sitting side by side, right next to each other. Maybe it's like sitting on a sofa with wheels and a single handlebar in the middle. How wild would that be? How amazing that the creative mind can think of anything it wants while your breath and body remain supported. I would invite you to remember your own agency. You're the author of a space around you that often feels like it belongs to you, your personal space, your bubble. So I wonder if you might bring your awareness in this particular moment to imagining how far your personal space extends beyond the body. Is it 3 inches, 6, 8, 12, 20? Is it a mile, a kilometer? You might perceive this space. You might perceive or imagine the perimeter. That space, the one that marks this as yours. Perhaps there's a color that feels especially wonderful, a hue that feels rich, warm, or soothing, a color that you can use to illuminate this perimeter so that you're able to imagine exactly where it is. Is the boundary of your very own bubble turquoise or green, maybe silver? And what is its texture? Maybe it's plush and velvety. Perhaps it's smooth. And just because you can, what would it be like to pull that bubble tight in around you, shrinking it around you, reducing your personal space? Does that appeal to you or make you feel uncomfortable? You get to notice. You might notice changes in your body or breath as you do this. Or what if you could extend it further than you knew possible so that the perimeter travels far and your personal space is enormous? How does your mind describe that for yourself? And somewhere in between too tight and too big is a distance just right for your body. You are welcome to imagine your bubble being that size so that you can imagine floating inside of it with EASE, ease. And sometimes our personal space feels too much, too crowded, too heavy. So, as if there was a trap door at the bottom of this bubble, and as if anything, a color, a shape, or density could be released if you wanted to. How much would you release out of the bubble, out of the trap door, so that your bubble was buoyant and comfortable? You might even remember the space above you, behind you, and below you as you tend to your bubble atmosphere. Breath is breathing itself. Your mind is shifting your personal space. Sometimes we even project our uncomfortable emotions and negative beliefs into our space. And that happens, and it's okay because this is your space. And you are invited to notice these emotions, and you might gain insight and learn from them. Get an understanding of how your nervous system is doing according to sensation. So, if you could bring to mind one of the fears or emotions you would like to shift and soften, and if you could imagine it taking on a shape or a color, what do you notice? Maybe you see it floating near or sticking to your personal space around you. Just notice what begins to appear. Are you projecting this in small little ways, or are you filling your own personal space with this message so it becomes a cloud around you, as if advertising negative vibes? But because your body is supported and your breath can go as deep as you like, you can use creative mind to release this color, shape, texture, vibration right out of your bubble through that trap door you may have created. And because you are making space in the way you perceive your bubble, you might like to take this moment to bring to mind an aspect of yourself you would like to advertise or cultivate or immerse yourself in. Maybe your mission, what words come to mind? Maybe patience, confidence, success, compassion, or something else. If these words had a vibration or color, what would that be? Luminescent or glowing or earth toned? And what if you could fill your bubble with this, like an artist painting a canvas with your paintbrush illuminating and tuning the space around your body with each stroke and breath? And as all of this is unfolding in your inner landscape, your body is responding. So if you could ask or observe where in your body you're responding, what do you notice? Maybe there is a sensation or an imaginary location that you settle into. Maybe there's a texture. Maybe your body wants to move. Whatever you notice, this is your body responding to your mind. And no matter how great or small that response, real, felt, or imaginary, you are welcome to settle into that, giving it a felt sense and embodied motion by placing your non dominant hand on the part of you responding. Or you might prefer a hand gesture, an activation gesture that you can make tomorrow that can help your personal space, remembering that. And if you could create an activation word or phrase or mantra that could best remind you of all of this tomorrow, what is that? Could you even imagine writing it in your own handwriting on the bubble in iridescent gold? And you can invite your own bubble to just be there behind the scenes, as your breath is always there behind the scenes, serving you, supporting you. You can start to notice your body in present time, slowly moving fingers and toes, noticing the sounds around your outer landscape. Gently opening your eyes, and when it feels right, ending your meditation. Thank you all for being here for today's meditation. I encourage you to take a few moments to journal about your experience. And I welcome you to return for our next meditation session. We meet each Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific. Wishing you all a gorgeous day. Be well.